Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 237 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast, and this is the first episode of 2025, so welcome everyone. Hope you all had a great new year, great holiday season, and to kick it off for 2025, we have a returning guest, Dee Dot, Dallas producer, artist, podcast host. He hosts Major Music Lounge podcast that I've been on a couple times. I was on it again last summer. So we discussed that. We discussed, what he's been incorporating into that, along with doing some educational content and episodes on YouTube, and overall just what he's trying to do with his brand building, as he continues on. He also talked about his project with Rook One that he did, and how important that was to him based on, some of the things he went through in life over the past couple of years, and overall just, what he has planned for 2025, continuing to stay consistent with the music and the content. And Dee Dot is someone who I just admire as a fellow creative. Every time I open my timeline, I see something that he's doing, and just really cool stuff that he does all the time. And the door is always open for us to keep collaborating and working together in different ways. So I'm just grateful to have him as, a peer, colleague, collaborator, all that good stuff. And I wish him all the best moving forward. So I think this is a great way to kick off 2025 with some great energy. And as always, I hope you guys enjoy this one. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so welcome everyone to episode 237 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast, and this is actually the first episode of 2025, so, Happy New Year everyone. Hope everyone had a great holiday season, and we're kicking it off with a returning guest, someone who, I've been connected with now for a few years at this point, host of the Major Music Lounge Podcast, which I've been on a couple times. We've had him on the Proven Knowledge Podcast a couple years ago. So it's going to be great to catch up with him today. Everybody, please welcome Dee Dot back to the show. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, doing pretty good, man. Definitely a pleasure to be back on, and had you on the Major Music Lounge. In fact, a couple of months ago. Yeah. So it's always great to catch up with you.
Yeah, for sure. You're always at the top of my list as far as people to connect with, and always keeping up with your work and everything. So I'm happy to have you back. And if people didn't hear that first episode that we did a few years ago, or maybe they didn't see the episodes we did on Major Music Lounge, just kind of give a brief reintroduction for you, who you are, and, for those that might not know you and what you do.
Yeah. I'm a producer and an artist, and also have the Major Music Lounge podcast, which, similar to the Proven Knowledge podcast, we have a variety of different, music creators on, from producers, artists. We also had on music promoters, but my background mainly comes from music production, and been doing that since 2006. And as an artist, I came out with my first project in 2011. It was the first album that I produced on was my homie Boom's first album, New King on the Block, which came out in 2009. But yeah, it's just been kind of going since then, and recently released a project with Rook One at a different speed too. So just keeping it rolling.
Yeah. Always staying consistent. That's really the biggest thing, that I notice from you is just I always see your stuff on social media, and it's always a big inspiration to see what you're doing. And I didn't get to really catch up on the first episode that we did a couple of years ago, so I don't really remember all the discussion points. But my first question would be, what do you think has been the biggest change? Could be music or in life that you've kind of overcome or just gone through since the first time we chatted.
Oh man, that's probably a pretty tough question for me, I would have to say it was probably the majority of 2023. I went through a lot of like health issues, had to have surgery twice. I had to have, take a lot of time off from work, but had some other things going on in my personal life. So at one point, it was just, I didn't want to do music at that particular point in time. And it really wasn't until earlier, like this year, in fact, can't believe how far we came, but in January, where I really got inspired again slowly. And, shout out to Rook One. I know I just said we came out with the album at a different speed, part 2, but that kind of got started late 2023 going into 2024. And he was kind of one of the people that pushed me to get going again. And this is kind of why I think that album in particular means a lot more to me personally.
Yeah, and it's great to have like a collaborator there that can kind of help you work through those things through the music. You know what I mean? Because I definitely know what that's like working with some of the people that I've worked with as well. And I think it also goes to show the ways that music can kind of help you in those like tough times of life. You know what I mean? And why it's such a great outlet to have. So it's kind of great to hear that was the case for you, and being able to have that as well. But I also wanted to discuss what you went to I think the summertime. You went to a BeatStars event in near the Dallas area, which is where you're at currently. So I'm interested to know what that was like, because I've seen like kind of the BeatStars events come to different places. They actually came to Cleveland about a year and a half ago. I didn't have the chance to go. So I wanted to know what your experience was like, going to that event and what you learned from that event. And, how important is it for like producers to go to events like that? And, would you go again?
Yeah, that was actually my second time going. I went, and shout out to Abe Bastion, who's the founder of BeatStars. But he remembered me because I went. They did a event in 2019, right before like COVID broke and everything, and he remembered me from then. And like, what I like about the BeatStars events, especially this last one I went to, and it had a lot to do with a lot of Dallas-based producers. There was one guy by the name of Wu on a track, and he actually worked on producer Cardo Got Wings' latest project that he dropped, I think about 2 months ago. But he talks about how he got started on BeatStars, how he uploads beats consistently, and little details within like posting tracks, such as the hashtags that you use, even the images that you associate with the beats. And I think a lot of artists, like, that's something that I've taken away, in the past from listening to a lot of other producers. But I think that's one of the things that a lot of artists, producers don't really do when they upload their beats. It can kind of allow artists to be able to find their beats a lot better. And, aside from that, they talked a lot about like music publishing, how to submit your music and find music supervisors on LinkedIn and reach out to them. And, just a whole lot of things as far as also getting records placed with major artists and making sure you got all of your performance rights, organization information correct. So it's a lot of very informative information having to do with some of those topics, music publishing, and a lot of the business related aspects of being a music creator. And it's not just even for producers. There are some artists that go to these events as well. So it's a great place to network with other music creators.
Yeah. I definitely still am aiming to make that a future goal of mine for sure. And I'm just going to have to keep an eye out like when they come back. Because I forget what I had going on at the time, but I was going to go and didn't end up going. But it definitely sounds like an awesome event, and it's great to hear that you went as well. And I loved what you did like the following week. I think you put out an episode of the podcast where you were discussing the event, kind of going over like what you learned at the event, which I thought was super informative as well. And how do you think, that type of content has kind of been incorporated into what you're doing? Because you do the interviews, like you mentioned, with artists, producers, and all these other individuals, but you're also doing more like educational stuff on YouTube and through the podcast as well. So how has that helped to kind of, get you further with your brand and what you're doing?
It kind of made me find a certain, I guess, niche within the music producers community, as well as artists too, because I feel like, even though like I don't pretend to have all the knowledge, I try to share the things that I've learned over the years from other creators with a lot of up and coming music creators. And I think by doing videos such as the BeatStars video that you mentioned, and even doing a lot of other like gear related videos on YouTube, it's allowed me to be able to grow. I think my YouTube channel, we're approaching 2,200 subscribers, and then social platforms as well. And it's gotten me not only artists that have supported me like through BeatStars, but also other music creators, generally speaking, that may reach out to do other things like be on a podcast, and in other cases also connect with other creators that I follow as well. So I kind of just look at me as far as growing my brand. One of the things that I focused on really, as I kind of alluded to, was I wanted to have the growth of YouTube because I felt there was so much more potential for me there, as a platform. And I think it's starting to pay off by just being consistent with a lot of the informative videos, as well as some of the beat making videos even that I put out.
Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month. So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. And I've always gone on what a lot of people say about comparing YouTube to the different social platforms like Instagram, where like Instagram is very limited on your reach. And like YouTube has a lot more reach just by, the amount of people that can access it, because it's not like Instagram where you have to have like an account to view anything, you know what I mean? And YouTube has been around way longer as well. And just the way you can do, and it helps open up different avenues. And like you said, you've been able to connect with a lot of people through just the videos and the content you're doing there. And then if you can get them over to the other platforms, then they can see what you're doing there. And it's just kind of, they get invested in your whole brand and what you're doing. So, and like I said, man, just your consistency alone, like to be able to be that consistent on all the platforms, it's like you're just going to keep building, and it's going to keep getting better and better too. So I got to say, I admire you for that as well, because it's super impressive to see you every single day on my timeline. So doing cool stuff. So that's awesome to hear. And as far as people you have connected with, because you mentioned Rook One, who you did the album with, is there anybody else that you want to shout out on the show today that you've been working on music with, or just, connecting with recently?
Yeah, there's this artist out of Las Vegas by the name of Don Majesty. Been working with him on and off for about a year, and he's about to put out a project. I want to say sometime in December, maybe might be early next year even. But yeah, can't wait till he comes out. And shout out to also POEGB, Product of My Environment, another artist out of Detroit that sent him a pack, and we've been discussing working together. I'm actually gonna be going out there real soon, but those two are primarily the artists that I've been working with as of late. But yeah, always open to working with anybody.
Yeah. I know you went out to Vegas recently. So did you get to work with him in person at all while you were out there?
No,
No.
I didn't get a chance to catch up with him that weekend. Just a busy weekend attending like a lot of Raiders events.
Yep. And while we're at it, I don't always like to dip into the sports stuff, but I know you got the Piston shirt on, and I know we talked some sports on the last time we discussed on your podcast. So like, how you feeling about your teams right now? How you feeling? All your teams?
It's kind of a pleasant surprise when it comes to the Pistons. They just won one game out of being back at 500. So, for me to say that, as brutal as last season was, I think they didn't win their 8th game till like February.
Yeah.
So that's a big jump there. And then the Raiders, man, we need a quarterback, man. It's bad down there right now. And this is the year, though. If we can be bad enough, we might have a chance of getting Shador Sanders or
get that
Cam Ward or
top 10 pick. That top 10 pick for sure, which is where my team is headed as well. I'm not going to get into that whole discussion, but at least my Cavs are doing good right now.
Yeah.
Just won again tonight, 15-0, so that's cool. I agree with the I think the Pistons, man, they're going to be, I could see them sneaking in the wild card, maybe 7 or 8 seed. Because the East is just so like weak, honestly, compared to the West. And I think right now there's only like 3 teams that even have a winning record. And I do like, because you guys have JB now as your coach. I still think JB is a good coach. I think his time kind of just ran out in Cleveland with like what they were doing. But the roster that the Pistons have is like just so young and vibrant and ready to go. So I think they're just going to keep building. It's kind of like, I kind of view them the same way I view the Magic, where it's like they got a nice young team. They're just going to keep getting better and better every year. And, I'm sure we're going to be in for some great matchups in the coming years, especially being in the same division. It'll be exciting to see for sure. But long story short, I'm a lot happier watching basketball right now than football.
We agree on that.
I'm not going to talk about my team. Where I'm not even going to go there. But yeah, I thought I had to bring that up because I know we're avid sports people, and you ride the highs and lows, you know what I mean? So, but that's definitely a thing. And as far as like what you've been doing to kind of, you could even say attending sports could be a thing, but like other than that, what are you doing to kind of recharge the batteries, refuel your creativity with music? Like, what are you doing on the day-to-day currently to kind of help do that?
Yeah, well, next year is going to present like kind of unique path. It's my last year being an artist. I'm still going to do production, but like what's keeping me motivated, shout out to my good friend Boom, but he and I, went to lunch about a week ago, and we had a discussion about coming out with a EP. And for me and him, we've been knowing each other at least since '06, so that's almost 20 years right there. And I think both where we are in our careers and what we've done, previously as we've been knowing each other so long, this is something that's just kind of refreshing for me. And it's kind of something that's motivated me from a standpoint of it's something that I've always wanted to do. And, aside from that, like I I would say I'm a pretty big gamer, off the air and away from the music. That kind of keeps me going and working out, going to the gym, and just sometimes, like, you mentioned a Vegas trip, but traveling, getting just away from Dallas sometimes, and just the busyness that goes on here. When I stayed in Vegas, I kind of stayed on the outskirts of the city, and that was just kind of like a peaceful presence for me. So I got a chance to recharge, and I try to travel every couple of months just to get that different peace of mind and come back to creating with a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
But kind of all of those different things have been working in combination, and aside from that, man, I try to like step out and listen to a lot of other creators as well. I get motivation from that.
Yeah, for sure. And is there anything that, since we're about to, well, by the time this episode's out, it'll be 2025, but we're about to, get into 2025 in the next like month and a half. What do you think is the biggest thing you're looking forward to doing, or something that is a goal that you want to accomplish, or anything like that?
You're probably going to see a lot from me next year. At least I plan on it, but I want to try to be a part of as many projects as I can. Like, I want this 2025 run to be something different, and even if I can try to work with a major artist that maybe I've never worked with before, or produce for a major artist as well. But I just want to do as many projects as I can, or as many features as I can, on top of you see, one of the things that I want to also do is grow the Major Music Lounge podcast, and I still want to do the online interviews, but I want to connect more locally with other artists and possibly do like some in-studio interviews. So I just want to grow the show from that perspective as well. So that's kind of like my two main focuses for 2025.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely be on the lookout for what you got coming up, because I know you'll be posting all about it. So it'll be awesome to see for sure. And before we go, do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners?
Yeah. We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but you may have things that come up rather in life that you may think that it's over or it slows you down, and that's very possible that you could get slowed down, but just keep your head up and push through those hard times. Sometimes doing what you love to do, like creating music, or maybe even listening to music, can help get you back pointed in the right direction. So I know, especially with the holiday, and I know this is going to air a little after the holiday, but say a lot of people go through things during that time, and you never know how it's going to turn out, but keep the faith, keep your head up, and keep pushing.
Yeah, keeping that persistence, that's a big thing, and that's something that I think a lot of people can use as we start the new year, for sure. So, but man, Dee Dot, again, thank you, man, for stopping by. You're welcome back anytime. And like I said, I'm just going to keep checking out what you got going on, man. So, you're always welcome back. And thanks again for stopping by. So.
Oh, man, no problem. A pleasure coming on, and I appreciate you having me as well. And, just like that, you're welcome on a Major Music Lounge anytime.
Thanks, everyone, for listening today. That was episode 237. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit that support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds. And feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. And be sure to tune in every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for exclusive in-depth content on twitch.tv/AnthonyChurch24. But until next week, we'll see you then. Thanks for listening.